Hi, it's What If Wednesday time with Susan Bennett Fisher and Martin Fisher, the co-founders of Body of Nine. What if you could tell your natural number from a quiz?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, that'd be so awesome. Because it's a real pain in the neck that we have to actually see your body, see you, and actually get to know you in order to, well, get to know you is the wrong words. We need to experience you and the way you present and the way you look in order to actually know your natural number.
That's true in many ways, but at the same time, reading a book, having someone just tell you a number, probably won't be the most impactful experience you've ever had in your life.
Right. It would just be like Myers-Briggs or the Enneatype or any personality system. Essentially, you get diagnosed or identified. We say identified, but they say typed or whatever. And then you learn about yourself and it describes your behaviors, but it doesn't tell you what to do.
And we've said it before, and we will continue to say this, is that this is a very body-based, a very physical system that we use. Even though the identifications are quite visual, it's very much about what does your body tell us.
And I'm Susan Bennett Fisher with Body of Nine.
And I'm Martin Fisher, also, of course, with Body of Nine. And it's great to see you again today.
Yes. So, to understand your Enneatype or your Myers-Briggs or any of the psychological models that are out there, you answer a series of questions. And they write the questions from all different directions. So you might answer one question one way or the other. And they look at the propensity of the way that you answered the questions to determine which one of their types that you fall into.
I think it's true to say that the more comprehensive the questionnaire, the more accurate the final answer, your final diagnosis or your final identification is going to be. And there's a really good reason for that.
What's that?
Well, the reason is that when you're answering a questionnaire, you're very much responding with your nurture. And Body of Nine is about identifying, validating, and honoring your nature.
Right. So when you're filling out a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram test, you could be answering using your beautiful mind with all kinds of nurture-based beliefs layered upon who you are at your core. So you're not validated out in the world at the level of the nature very well. It doesn't repeat in families. Our parents don't really truly know how we experience life. Our brothers and sisters don't. So that translates into not being validated for who we are on a physical and natural level. So if you go to take a personality quiz, now you're going to answer the way your mother wants you to answer, the way you think you should answer, the way you'd like to be. And rarely do we tell the truth when we're answering those questions from our nature, not willfully, but because at some level we don't know. And that's sad.
It's very sad.
It's really sad.
And so the well-educated designers of these questionnaires do what they can to try and tease out your nature. But it has to be teased out because it's hard to get past your preconceived notions, your ideas, your beliefs, all of which are a combination of your nature, how you were raised, and the people that influenced you.
The other really important point is that most systems look at behavior. And your behavior actually doesn't tell you much about your nature. It tells you a lot about your nurture. What have you learned that's acceptable in terms of your behavior? What underlying belief systems do you have that translate into your behaviors? But it doesn't actually necessarily indicate your nature. So for example, if you say everybody that talks fast is a natural number 6, well, that's not true. Any natural number can talk fast. But if you understand the energy intensity in the voice of a 6, now that's a little bit different. There's an energy intensity in my voice. I can talk loud and I can talk fast. I can talk quietly. But no matter what, there's an energy intensity in my voice. That's the nature. The nurture is, I've tried to quiet myself down. I've tried to slow down. It's kind of useless. And so what comes in for me is some shame around my natural way of being. So I don't want to answer a question that says, do you talk fast? I'm like, no, I don't talk fast. But I do talk fast. But It's just an example of the difference between nature and nurture and why a quiz might get me confused. In fact, every time I've taken the Enneagram quizzes, I come out as a 2, a 7, or an 8. I've never once come out as a 6.
Now, it could be, and honestly, we have some belief that the Enneagram does not understand natural number 6 or the Enneatype 6 as well as they think they do, for reasons that we've talked about in the past that I don't think we need to go into here. Many of the other numbers are fairly accurate in some ways. My natural number is a 5, my Enneatype is a 5, I'm 99% sure. And that's, there's a reason why I think they can be fairly accurate. And again, it goes into these, how are these tests designed? What is the core? How did this come about? And we're very, very convinced that there is one truth, that there are 9 different kinds of physiological beings in the world. And the Enneatype was perhaps one of the first ways that this was recognized, brought back into Western civilization. But how do you determine which of the Enneatypes you are? And if you are a well-trained psychiatrist, there's pretty much only one way to determine who people are. And as Susan said, it's very, very much about the behaviors. But your behaviors are so much generated by your nurture, not your nature.
Well, and what's really interesting, we were talking about this morning, that our phobias are actually not bad predictors of our natural number.
And we think that's because our phobias are actually our bodily responses, whereas our nature is our bodily response. And nurtures are mostly, I think, more learned. They're more almost intellectual than they are. Certainly when you're answering a questionnaire, that's a very intellectual exercise.
Yes, and nurture has this combination of experience and then the resulting belief systems that come from those experiences. And then you roll emotion in there, in particular shame, fear, and disappointment. And then all of a sudden, we don't behave in alignment with our nature because our nurture lays on top of that and moves away from that unvalidated nature.
But ironically, our phobias are very much a physical response, whether it's fight or flight or whatever your physical response is, the shame, the fear, the distancing, all the things that you read about in the Enneagram in terms of how the phobias affect you. There's probably some degree of accuracy in there because it's very much more body-based than belief-based. I don't think our beliefs are actually driving our phobias. For example, fear of spiders. I mean, there's no way on earth that someone has suddenly said, well, I think I'm going to be afraid of spiders. It's a very physical response.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But I do think that the phobias, when you look at them, are not bad predictors because they seem to come from the nature as opposed to the nurture. But that's where you have to be really careful because it's a bit of a slippery slope looking at phobias because you have to also look, if you're looking at behaviors at the same time, you can get confused.
Yes. And one of the fun things about Body of Nine is that we were lucky enough to be able to start with the bodies. We didn't get a group of thousands of people, 7,500 people into a room and put them into groups by their behaviors. We didn't need to because we were able to look at them and use their bodies to put them into groups. And then you can talk to each of the groups and find out the commonality for each of that group. Because as Susan said, the words are very, very slippery. Intuition, energy, pretty much all the words you use are very much specific and have specific meanings and interpretations based on your natural number.
Well, that's one of the things that makes this system powerful. So it's a physical thing. We push, if we're with you, we can push gently on your body and give you a physical experience with the activated region of your body. Once you understand how to access that activated region of your body, you can access your, what we like to call your observer. Your observer lets you look at your behaviors and then make conscious decisions about, gee, do I want to behave that way? And what's the underlying belief system? So we start with the physical and then move into how do I affect my behavior? So there's an actual opportunity to change that isn't just psychological.
Yes, now that we're moving out of the distancing and the lack of physical contact that has been enforced over the last year or so, we can talk about the sort of 3 levels of impact of identification. The most powerful is by far is the ability to be in physical contact, because even though we can give the experience of being validated and honored just over Zoom by not being in person, the physical experience is even more powerful because it not just validates you and gives you the ability to be honored, it also shows you what a powerful human being you are.
Yeah. I remember the first time I got activated fully in the power that comes with being a natural number 6. It was so freeing. I felt great. I felt like I could really love myself. I just posted a little video, or it's going to come out soon, about what does it mean to love yourself. Unless you know yourself, it's pretty hard to love yourself. And if you have a lot of belief systems that take you away from the real true goodness of who you are, loving yourself gets pretty darn hard, because you are judged through these lenses of the other 8. And you're never going to measure up to their view of you, because they don't know why you are the way you are. So until we can truly appreciate these fundamental physiological differences, it's really hard for you to love yourself and for you to love other people.
And the interesting thing about society is that we tend to get pushed into buckets. For example, natural number 5, I'm a nerd. In various societies, some societies really support nerds and think they're wonderful. Other societies look down on nerds and denigrate them. But at the same time, natural number 5s in general are not seen to be, as far as at least I've seen, very powerful human beings, physically powerful. But as it turns out, when a natural number 5 is fully activated, they are as powerful as any other natural number. You've seen people, maybe natural number 8, who knows, be able to lift cars and be able to lift huge amounts of weights, and perhaps they're natural number 8s, perhaps not. But I'm as powerful as any of those people when I'm strongly using my natural number. And that tells us that your physicality and how you approach the world isn't always representative of how powerful you are. Natural number 6, the same thing. Natural number 6s are very, very powerful people. They're energetically powerful and can be physically powerful. But some people don't like that physical power, and they use mental pressure to shut people down. So one of the fun things about the physicality of the natural numbers is that every one of us is a powerful person. Not just intellectually, not just spiritually, but physically powerful too, when we're in our strength. And we use the word strength very, very deliberately.
Right. It's like when your body is actually activated in your posture of activation. Each of the 9 have a very different, very specific posture of activation. You know, we've talked before about the slump and then lift, and that naturally lifts from the part of the body that is most active in you. But learning specifically where your activation is gives you access to the ability to recover instantaneously. So if Martin and I are starting to argue about something, which we do.
We're human.
We are human. And if I remember in the middle of that to say, oh, whoops, we're heading off into a triggered area where some belief of mine is now in conflict with some belief.
Or some habit of just we get
yes,
into. Yeah.
Or just habit.
Arguments tend to be habitual, as it turns out.
Yes. So once that I recognize that, I can just go, whew, and then the emotion associated with the triggering of those deep-seated belief systems can be let go of, so I can recover in the moment. So it's physiological.
Yeah, and basically letting our bodies do the work, because our bodies are very, very powerful. They're very, very smart, and it turns out they're able to do all sorts of things that we try and ignore or override with our beautiful minds, because that's just the way we've been brought up. There's very, very few of us, I think, that have been told, your body is your source of wisdom.
Well, I think that's not completely true. There are many disciplines that teach that.
Yes.
So yoga, meditation.
None of which are particularly Western focused, however.
Well, maybe. But the point is, if you found a system that works for you, a practice that works for you, once you understand your natural number, how you apply that and why it's working for you will make a lot more sense.
Yes. So it's a physical process. And I think it's really hard to understand and practice a physical process if all you're doing is reading about it. Which takes us back to, it would be lovely if you could have the experience of reading a bunch of questions and coming up with an answer. Yes, this is my natural number. And there are some people that have read the book and have been able to say, yeah, I think this is my natural number. The trick is being guided into the physicality of that.
Right.
And over the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing some videos that will guide you in how to focus on your physicality once you have some idea what your natural number is.
there are movements that are supportive of you and your body that aren't supportive of other natural numbers. Fives that lift for 6, movement around the chest and the popping, the movement of the chest is very supportive and makes me feel good. For other natural numbers, 8s, they often will gesture with downward movement, and they'll stomp their feet, or they'll keep their feet on the ground when they walk. So each of us has a different movement. 3s can keep their arms up this high and up here, and just for long periods of time.
Strong upper body strength that I just don't have.
We don't
and honestly,
have.
natural number 3 is one of the hardest ones for me to do, because keeping my hands up here and keeping that.
He doesn't even have them up there. Bring the shoulders down and the arms up. See, they don't even go that way on his body.
It takes a lot of
It's
work.
so
Yeah,
hard.
it's really strange. So it is, even with our practices, it's hard to get your body to do the things that a natural number 3, for example, would do naturally. It's one of the ways we tell, is this person a certain natural number? Do their bodies naturally go to a place when given the opportunity?
Right. So back to our original question. Because it's so physical, just taking a quiz, number 1, is unlikely to determine correctly. Number 2, it will not give you the physical experience and help you understand how to use your body more effectively.
And getting it wrong is actually not in support of you or everybody else. One of the things that we always ask for people we're working with is that if it doesn't feel right, and if you're not happy about what we tell you, please tell us, because we want to keep working, because the last thing we want is for you to go away unhappy, because the chances of you coming back and helping us, or letting us try and get it right, is low to none.
Right. You lose confidence. And we all want to be seen and validated. And when we do it right and we do it well, that's how you feel.
So there is an element of understanding in your body of who you really are. And you'll know if we've seen you.
But a personality quiz is not going to tell you that.
No, not at all.
It's not going to tell you whether you're happy about this or not. I mean, when you read the description, yeah, maybe.
Maybe it sounds about right.
But yeah, and as we always say, if it sounds about right, it's probably not right. It has to feel like a deep honoring and validation in your body.
Right.
And without that honoring and validation, it doesn't click in. It's like when you get identified, there's a state change in your body that clicks in your power, and then you can access it from that point forward, moving forward, and it becomes available to you at will.
It sounds simplistic, but when we tell you your natural number and it's right, there is a connection that is made between your mind, your spirit, and your body, that just by telling you that natural number occurs. It is way a simplistic description. It sounds unbelievable, but it happens again and again and again.
Yes, that acknowledgement of your most fundamental gift, your most fundamental way of experiencing the world around you is, and the permission that gives you to be you, it starts you on a journey to a more fulfilled, happy, loving experience of life. And that is not available from a personality quiz.
And just answering a few questions, giving you some sort of number, it doesn't work as well as having an experience.
And it doesn't give you practices.
Yes.
Or an understanding of why the practices you that are working for you make sense and work. It also doesn't tell you why certain wisdom lands for you and other wisdom doesn't. So in the example of, oh my God, I love Tony Robbins. He's amazing. He's really inspiring to me. But then I leave and I deflate. Why does that happen? Or you go out and you say, oh, I love meditation. It's really great for me. Well, there's 3 kinds of meditation. Which kind are you doing? So understanding the context of the modality that's coming to you is also really helpful to make it more powerful. I did Bikram yoga for 5 years, and a couple of the postures were like my favorite, and they were the ones that lifted and expanded my chest. The ones where I crunched down and tried to balance were practically impossible for me. So at the time, I was just learning about my natural number, and it really helped me to improve my practice. And it helped my practice to improve my awareness of my body as well.
And the other thing about the other systems, while they're really useful for an idea about how you experience the world, none of them give you the opportunity to experience the other 8.
Yeah. And that's probably the most profound next step,
Yes.
because you said there's stages or steps. The first is to know yourself and get validated at that deep level and begin your journey. The next is to begin to learn about the other 8 natural numbers. And in order to do that, you actually have to learn to activate that region in your body. When you activate the region in your body, it opens a new perspective, a new use of your senses, so that new information starts to come in. This expands your reality. Then you can do that 8 more times. It's incredible. And that opens avenues for evolution and development and growth that up to that moment were unavailable to you. You might mistakenly tap into another natural number for a few minutes.
With some help from somebody else nearby.
Yeah, something like that, or a crisis, or if something big might force you. Usually that just forces you into your own way of being. But there's so much more available to us as individuals and as community when we truly understand our natural number. It's so much more than a personality quiz.
And it helps you validate and honor the people around you too. Because first step is, wouldn't you like to be validated and honored? Wouldn't you like other people to validate and honor you all the time? Wouldn't you like to be able to validate and honor your friends, your family? It's all possible.
It's all possible. So we are doing free identification events every month called Better Than a Personality Quiz events. And you go to our website, bodyof9.com, you can sign up. If you can afford it, obviously getting identified individually or with your family or your loved ones or your partner is extraordinarily powerful. But if you want to see what it looks like, you're on the fence about whether you'd like to try the experience, come to one of our Better Than a Personality events. You might get identified, or you might just be a witness to those people who are getting identified, to learn more about and see what it's like in person. Because it's not like anything you've experienced up to this point.
It's certainly not like a written questionnaire.
No, it is certainly not.